and struck him with their hand. Pilate went out again and said to them,
See, I am bringing him out to you, that you may know that I find no crime in him.
So Jesus came out wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe. Pilate said to them,
Here is the man.
When the chief priests and the officers saw him, they cried out,
Crucify him, crucify him,
Crucify him, crucify him.
Pilate said to them,
Take him yourselves and crucify him, for I find no crime in him.
The Jews answered him,
We have a law, and by that law he ought to die, because he has made himself the Son of God. We have a law,
And by that law he ought to die, because he has made himself the Son of God.
When Pilate heard these words, he was the more afraid. He entered the praetorium again and asked Jesus,
Where are you from?
but Jesus gave no answer. Pilate therefore said to him,
You will not speak to me. Do you not know that I have power to release you and power to crucify you?
Jesus answered him, You would have no power over me unless it had been given from above. Therefore, he who delivered me to you has the greater sin. Upon this Pilate sought to release him, but the Jews kept shouting,
If you release this man, you are not Caesar's friend. Everyone who makes himself a king sets himself against Caesar.
If you release this man, you are not Caesar's friend. Everyone who makes himself a king sets himself against Caesar.
When Pilate heard these words, he brought Jesus out and sat down on the judgment seat at a place called the Pavement, and in Hebrew Gabbatha. Now it was the day of the preparation of the Passover. It was about the 6th hour. He said to the Jews,
Behold your king.
they cried out,
Away with him, away with him, crucify him, crucify him.
Away with him, away with him, crucify him, crucify him.
Pilate said to them,
Shall I crucify your king?
the chief priest answered,
We have no king but Caesar.
We have no king but Caesar.
Then he handed him over to them to be crucified. So they took Jesus and he went out bearing his own cross to the place called the place of the skull, which is in Hebrew Golgotha. There they crucified him, and with him 2 others, one on either side, and Jesus between them. Pilate also wrote a title and put it on a cross. It read, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. Many of the Jews read this title, For the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and it was written in Hebrew, in Latin, and in Greek. The chief priests of the Jews then said to Pilate,
"Do not write the King of the Jews." But this man said, "I am King of the Jews."
Do not write the King of the Jews. But this man said, I am King of the Jews.
Pilate answered,
What I have written, I have written.
when the soldiers had crucified Jesus, they took his garment and made 4 parts, one for each other, also his tunic. But the tunic was without seam, woven from top to bottom. So they said to one another,
Let us not tarry, but let us cast lots for it to see whose it shall be.
Let us not tarry, but let us cast lots for it to see whose it shall be.
this was to fulfill the scripture. They parted my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lot. That is what the soldiers did. But standing by the cross of Jesus were his mother, and his mother's sister Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing near, he said to his mother, Woman, behold your son. Then he said to the disciple, Behold your mother. From that hour the disciple took her to his home. After this, Jesus, knowing all that was now finished, said to fulfill the scripture, a bowl full of vinegar stood there. So they put a sponge full of vinegar on hyssop and held it to the mouth. When Jesus had received the vinegar, he said, It is finished. And he bowed his head and gave up his spirit.
Let us kneel if we can possibly.
Soldiers came and broke the legs of the first and of the other who had been crucified with him. But when they came to Jesus and saw that he was already dead, they did not break his legs. But one of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear, and at once there came out blood and water. He who saw it has borne witness. His testimony is true, and he knows that he tells the truth, that you also may believe. For these things took place that the scripture might be fulfilled. Not a bone of him shall be broken. Again the scripture says, they shall look on him whom they have pierced. After this, Joseph of Arimathea, who was a disciple of Jesus, but secretly for fear of the Jews, asked Pilate that he might take away the body of Jesus. And Pilate gave him leave. So he came and took away his body. Nicodemus also, who had also come to him by night, came bringing a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about